Okay, so right now I'm watching like this like interview between I think it's Tucker Carlson. I'm going to murder the name. I think his name is Tucker Carlson and uh, Sam Altman, right? And they were discussing like AI, of course, and I think sorry, let me just call him the host, right? So the host I think he asked Altman about the future of AI and which sectors that he thinks that like people are going to lose their jobs. Yeah, and so some Altman was kind of skeptical and like answering the question. He didn't want to you know I think he's a very positive person naturally, so he didn't want to be on optimistic about the whole thing. So I think reluctantly he said um call centers. So in today's world we have like call centers. We have people doing you know so for instance, if you buy something from Amazon, for instance, if you try to return it, you could. Sorry, not Amazon. So for instance, okay, let me just use myself as an example. I do a lot of traveling, right? And then sometimes I would book let's say, I'll book like an Airbnb or some sort, maybe on Trip.com on Verbal, and sometimes you know the whole thing doesn't fall, it falls through, and I have to like get a refund, right? So in that instance, I have to like contact customer care, right? So the people the people I go through to contact the customer care essentially is what he's talking about. That you know, customer care is something that AI can do comfortably. Do you understand? And when you think about it, that's actually very very correct. I think AI has actually done customer care to very very comfortably, right? But I think in the end, capitalism always wins, right? So I think capitalism is going to capitalize on this. So I think people are going to end up money. Companies, first of all, corporations. This whole thing about um, um, the gospel is first to the Jews, then the Gentiles, right? So I think first of all, corporations are going to I asked a little bit about this, by the way, and it was like corporations are first of all going to monetize human connection, right? And then it will trickle down to individuals. So what does it mean for corporations to monetize human connection, right? So let's use me as an example again. So let's say I try to I was flying to I don't know New York, and I booked like an Airbnb, right? And then my host for some weird reason declines my request, right? And I've already paid, right? So I need my refund, right? So I need to contact Airbnb for my refund, right? So in the future, right? A capital Corporations will capitalize on that and say that wait, if you want to, you have two options here. One, you can talk to an AI, right, which is free, right? Yeah, and the AI will forward whatever request you have to the team that is responsible for it, or you can talk to like a human being directly now, instantly now. But that option is only available on like our pro plan, for instance. So you have to get like Airbnb Plus or Netflix Plus or I don't know, Delta Plus. So I think companies. So and if you wanted to talk to a human being, and if you wanted your request to be handled immediately, let's say the refund is urgent, right? Then you would, as a normal human being, you would most likely opt for the human connection and say, look, let me just talk to somebody like a customer care. Let me just talk to somebody that is let me just talk to someone essentially. Let me just skip the AI. Let me skip the queue. Let me skip the bureaucracy. Sorry, I'm going to murder this English. Bureaucracy. Oh Jesus Christ! I dropped out of school. I'm sorry. Um, Let me just skip it and let me just talk to a human being, right? So I think a lot of people will pick that option. So I think companies are going to monetize, and that monetization of human connection. I think is a trillions of dollar stack on its own. It's another industry on its own that people will have not even touched. Like in the future, like companies are going to be monetizing human connection, and that eventually that would trickle down to like individuals essentially. So in the future, everybody's going to, of course, have like a construct or an agent or whatever you want to call it, right? And if you wanted to talk to like your agent, right? If you wanted to call me, for instance, let's say, okay, let's even use this podcast for instance, like that I don't like mispronouncing people's name, but I'll try. I think it's not so hard to pronounce. I'm just like terrible at English. Mr. Carson, let's just say Mr. Carson, right? It's podcast, right? Okay, cool. Back in the 90s when I was growing up, yeah, there are all these like shows on TV where you could like phone in into like the show, right? And then you could like maybe make like a song request and stuff like that, right? So let's say it was that kind of podcast, right? The only way you can monetize a podcast now is directly, right, through ads, right? So in the future, you could have something like you could dial into the podcast, and the podcast is, even though you are listening to it here, the host, Mr. Carlson here, will reply you and talk to you like it will give you his opinion on whatever question you asked him, right? Based on what the podcast is on, because it's construct to just answer you on the podcast. But if you wanted to get to him directly, right, maybe you want your reply in your inbox, or you want him to like send you like if let's say a 30-second voice note of answering your question, right? Then you have to like pay a certain subscription. You have to pay a certain amount, and that is like monetizing human connection, right? So I think it's going to be like, and that again, and this is like the middleman type of stuff, right? And eventually it's going to trickle down to like normal human beings, right? So your friend, your bestie in school, you want to call your bestie in school. Your bestie in school is like, talk to my fucking constructs, because there's this thing called time, and I can't afford to spend it. What did I say? Fucking? I'm so sorry. I'm always like, I noticed that I'm just going to like digress for a second. I noticed that I've started cussing like excessively. I don't know why. Only God knows why. So I'm very sorry. I don't know why I said that. I'm going to try to be watching it, right? So I think, so as I was saying, right, that's what Old Spirit was telling me just now, that they're just, it's capitalism that is going to capitalize again, right? All these companies are going to monetize everything. They're going to monetize the shit out of like Jesus Christ. I think I should just end this podcast here. So I think it's going to be tragically like, it's going to be equal parts tragically as awesome as it is tragic, right? Because on one hand, it's more money for everybody. People don't, people working at customer support, they don't get to lose their job. In fact, they get to get paid a premium now, right? And there's this, and on top of that, there's this silent validation that comes with it, that somebody's picked you over AI. There's this like picked you over AI essentially, right? There's the validation that comes from that, right? So they don't get to lose their job, they get more money essentially. The corporation also makes more money. Everybody makes money in the end. So that's the awesome part. The tragic part is that, literally every generation before us, right, all these things are free. Human connection is supposed to be free. Human connection is not supposed to be monetized, but because capitalism has to capitalize, right? So, human connection is going to be, unfortunately, it's going to be monetized. And this is what the Bible was saying. He said, they asked Jesus, they were like, Jesus, what are the new commandments? Because Jesus was like, was like talking about how Moses and his 10 commandments are kind of obsolete. And Jesus was like, there are 2 commandments now: love your neighbor as yourself, and love God with all of your heart. Love God with all your heart, and then love your neighbor as yourself. But in a world where human connection is monetized, right? You can't even love your neighbor as yourself, well, because there's now a construct between you and your neighbor, right? There's this AI between you and your neighbor, and love has been monetized essentially. So maybe Jesus will find. I don't know. I don't even know what will happen. So yeah, I think I have a feeling that I'm going to start cursing again. So let me just end it here. Bye bye.